Imagine a world instantly obliterated, its inhabitants vanished into dust, its cities reduced to ruins. A nuclear war could make this a reality. The power of nuclear weapons is unfathomable, their destructive force capable of wiping out entire cities in a flash. The aftermath? A desolate landscape, poisoned by radiation where life struggles to persist. This is a reality we've been close to more times than you might imagine. But did you know that humanity has stood on the brink of nuclear war more times than you might think? Our first brush with nuclear disaster dates back to November 5th, 1956. The world was on edge during the height of the Cold War, with tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union threatening to boil over into full-scale nuclear warfare. On that fateful day, American radar systems detected an unexpected blip, an incoming Soviet attack. Panic ensued as military commanders scrambled to respond to the perceived threat. The situation escalated quickly, with the United States preparing for imminent war. However, it soon became apparent that the alarm was false. The blip on the radar? It was later identified as a flock of geese. Yes, you heard it right, a flock of geese nearly triggered a nuclear war. It was a chilling reminder of how close the world was to the brink of annihilation. An unanticipated radar blip nearly spelled the end of the world. Fast forward to May 22, 1957. A regular day at the Kirtland Air Force Base, or so it seemed. The day took a dramatic turn when a B-36 bomber, carrying a Mark 17 hydrogen bomb, was en route from Biggs Air Force Base in Texas to Kirtland, in New Mexico. During the flight, a lock on the bomb bay doors failed. This resulted in the 10-megaton bomb, the most powerful weapon in the U.S. arsenal at the time, dropping a few miles from the control tower. The nuclear device plunged nearly 3,000 feet before impacting the ground. The conventional explosives detonated on impact, creating a crater nearly 12 feet deep and 25 feet in diameter. Miraculously, the nuclear core did not detonate. The accident was contained and the incident was hushed up for years. Thus, a mishandled bomb threatened to set off a chain reaction of nuclear explosions. Thankfully, disaster was narrowly averted, and the Kirtland incident remained a close call in the annals of nuclear history. Just a few years later, on January 24, 1961, the Goldsboro B-52 crash occurred. This incident was nothing short of a hair-raising near miss. Imagine this, a B-52 bomber was flying over Goldsboro, North Carolina, when it suddenly broke apart mid-air. The plane was carrying two Mark 39 hydrogen bombs, each more than 250 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima in World War II. As the plane disintegrated, these bombs were released and they plummeted towards the ground. Here's where it gets chilling. One of the bombs actually went through all but one of its arming stages. A single low-voltage switch stood between the United States and a catastrophic nuclear explosion. If that switch had failed, a vast region of North Carolina would have been obliterated, causing untold death and destruction. A plane crash almost turned North Carolina into a nuclear wasteland. And just like that, a disaster of unimaginable proportions was narrowly averted, reminding us of the potential devastation nuclear weapons wield. These incidents were not isolated. Over the next several years, the world was brought to the brink of nuclear war multiple times. In late October of 1962 at Volkfield, the sight of a bear triggered an alarm that was mistaken for an intruder. This seemingly minor event had the potential to escalate into a major military confrontation, as it occurred during the height of the Cold War tension. Thankfully, the situation was resolved before it could spiral out of control, with the bear being identified and the alarm subsequently called off. Moving forward to January of 1966, an accident over the skies of Palomares in Spain saw a B-52 bomber crash into a refueling aircraft. This resulted in the loss of 4 hydrogen bombs, 2 of which exploded on impact, scattering radioactive debris over the area. It took several weeks to recover the bombs and clean up the contamination. Then, in the midst of the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962, a submarine incident almost pushed the world into nuclear war. A Soviet submarine, believing it was under attack, prepared to launch a nuclear torpedo. It was only the intervention of the vessel's captain, who insisted on confirmation of the attack, which averted a disaster. Fast forward to September 1983, when a false alarm of a U.S. missile attack had the Soviet Union on high alert. A glitch in the early warning systems indicated an incoming missile strike. The situation was diffused thanks to the level-headed decision of Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov, who declared the alarm a system malfunction despite the high stakes. Finally, in January of 1995, a scientific rocket launched by Norway was mistaken for a US nuclear strike by Russian radar. With mere minutes to decide, President Boris Yeltsin was informed, and the nuclear briefcase was activated. Fortunately, the situation was recognized as a false alarm before any retaliatory action was taken. These incidents could have set off a chain reaction leading to unimaginable devastation. Today, the threat of nuclear war is as real as ever. We live in a world where conflict zones are many, and peace seems elusive. Let's take a moment to reflect on the current tensions in Ukraine and the Middle East. These regions are a tinderbox, and the spark that could ignite them into a full-blown nuclear war is not beyond imagination. Nations with nuclear capabilities are involved directly or indirectly, heightening the risk of escalation. In Ukraine, the drawn-out conflict with Russia continues to simmer, with both nations possessing nuclear arms. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, the tension between nations is palpable. A country like Israel being very aggressive to Palestinians and other Arab neighbors with the support of USA and with their nuclear capabilities, add another layer of complexity to the situation. In fact, they are pulling the world to a nuclear war. These are not mere speculations. They are real threats that could tip the scales towards a nuclear conflict. The lessons from these close calls must not be forgotten. The world cannot afford a nuclear war. In the face of these sobering facts, we must remember the potential devastation that nuclear war represents. From the false alarms to the near disasters at Kirtland, Goldsboro, Palomares, and Volk Field, we've seen the razor's edge of catastrophe. The Cuban Missile Crisis, the false US missile attack and airstrike, underscore the perilous nature of our world. It's crucial to embrace diplomacy and conflict resolution, avoiding the precipice of nuclear war. We have survived nuclear close calls before, but we cannot rely on luck forever. For the sake of our future, we must prevent a nuclear war.